July 18th, 2018, call the Northampton Public Shade Tree Commission meeting to order. No one from the public is here, so we go on to approval of previous minutes. Look like the minutes for June 6th. If you're ready, we'll take a motion.
I was here for this meeting. When Henry came? The shade tree person?
Yeah, because your motion, you made a motion. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I move that the minutes be accepted as amended.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great, thank you. Review of the to-do list. This is just a check-in with yourselves. I guess we can cover most of this as we go through the rest of the agenda. And I am filling in for chair, so I don't really have a report, and I didn't receive any information from Lily for that, so we'll jump right to Rich's report.
We have a public shade tree hearing at 38 Stoddard Street on the 24th of July. It's a request from the resident through her attorney's office to remove a 3-inch lilac tree that's there, make way for a new driveway. So we posted everything where they were supposed to, and I'm waiting for the response from the attorney's office about the litigation for the lawsuit. My recommendation is going to be that they, instead of removing the tree, instead of cutting the tree down, I should say, and putting the stump and everything, that they actually take the tree up, all in little habit, and remove it somewhere. So we'll see what they come up with. I haven't heard back. So I've been, a lot of the stuff we're going to cover later in the meeting. Just going to update you on the project in the Center Florence of Cumberland Farms that is now, well, it looks complete, but it's not complete because we had a site meeting yesterday with the engineer, the contractor, representatives from Cumberland Farms. They're going to have to rip up the sidewalk to be replaced and install the correct amount of structural soil, not place it. Plus, at the same time, correct the defects with the sidewalk and the bump outs that are there with the curbing. So And they also have to raise the trees, and the trees are too deep. So, and then they will put the CU soil back in there, report the sidewalks, and then flex the KBI, flex the cable in the tree wells. So,
Too bad they couldn't do it right the first time.
well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, was that their plan to use FlexiPay in the first place, or is that something you just?
No, that was the plan. That was the planning department, Carolyn Mission, and I worked on that plan. Required them to use structural soil and KBI product. It's just that I gotta give them credit. This is their first time. They've never done it before. It's the first plan that I've seen other than the one plan that we had for when we did Pleasant Street over to use FlexiPay, and so we did something new. So there's gonna be a little bit of hiccups, but we weren't budgeting on the fact. Plus, they had to take the sidewalk up anyways because it was inverted with the way they pitched it, so it was gonna hold water. So it was an ice problem, so we wanted to make it correct. So they had to replace the correct amount of seed soil.
And it is CU soil, not just structural soil, because we ran into a
No,
problem.
it's seed soil.
Yeah, because we ran into a problem, they spec'd it wrong at my school, and they called it structural soil, which is used for other things apparently.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, it's CU, they actually showed me the documentation. They got it from the supplier in Farmington, Connecticut,
Oh, yeah.
and Farmington people wouldn't give them the specs because it's a trade secret.
Well, they don't
No.
want to make it, yeah.
They wanted to make it, they said, no, we have to sell
Yeah.
it, so they ended up
Yeah.
getting the documentation from
Yeah.
Cornell,
Yeah.
Cornell's website, how to install it correctly.
What is CU?
Cornell University, it's
Oh.
patented,
Oh.
so I did not see it go in, and that's the other thing, is that when they go to rip the sidewalk up and put the seed soil back in, I've got to be just verify.
Certain lifts of 6
Correct.
inches at a time.
Yes, sir.
They put in a lot too little, is that what they just?
Well, two things that happen. One is that there is in Florence Center, part of the reason why I think we struggle with tree plantings there is that there is a large concrete conduit that runs directly adjacent and underneath some of the tree wells. They carry all the electrical and fiber optic telephone. So it's kind of unknown exactly where it is, because there's not a good, so National Grid marked it out. They excavated these tree pits, or they installed these tree pits where they were supposed to be, and they ran into this conduit. So the structural soil was not 3 feet deep, it's gonna have to be 2 feet deep. So that's a little bit of an issue, but not as big of an issue that I'd be concerned about. And then they just didn't put enough CU soil around the tree pit itself, so the roots can actually establish themselves. The other mistake they made is they put CU soil within 4 inches of the subgrade, finished subgrade. So there's CU soil, then there's 4 inches of gravel, and then there's concrete sidewalk. So the structural soil is designed so you don't have to have CU soil designed so you can bring that right to the bottom. What happens is that the fines will eventually wash in there and mix with the CU soil and make it ineffective and cause roots to struggle to get through it. So we'll see what happens. We had some people watching the whole project. Dotson and Flint was across the street, kept emailing me, on occasion and saying, they're supposed to use CU soil, and I don't think they use it. So they kind of tipped us off, and we went up there, and by the time, they poured everything that was done, so we just said, we'll just wait till the end.
So the tree board and deputy program is working well.
In that particular case, it is, and I also had the assistance of the city engineer, who basically told them, you're ripping the sidewalk up and you're fixing it correctly, because it's an inverted trough. It's not, instead of the water sheeting off of the street, it's sheeting into itself, so.
Good for the city,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. And again, this is new, but this is good because it proves to me that, as we continue to march forward, there's a good communication level between myself, the planning part, and our own internal engineering staff. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that we are in the process of doing a couple of road construction projects. One of them is reclaiming the Chesterfield, lower section of Chesterfield Road, which is being run by our department, through our engineering department. They were required as part of the contract to do a whole bunch of tree protection. So there's nice tree protection that's been put out, and they actually did it correctly. But I went out there and met with them, had a meeting with their representatives and our engineer, Bob Nelstrom, to make sure they did it correctly. They're putting in a new water main, and they're gonna reclaim the roadway. There's not much you can do about the reclaiming of the roadway in regards to the trees, because Chester Road, the rules and traffic against the road. So they're probably gonna do reclaiming for 10 years, so those roots will unfortunately get destroyed, but at least the trees will be protected, and with some fencing to protect them.
What's the flagging for? I just ran up there the other day, I noticed that there's flagging like a foot and a half from the existing curb, and then there's the protected trees
Oh,
beyond that.
the flagging, those are offset stakes, so they don't lose their stations. And the roadways, you know, it's all GPS, so they have actual stations and no television bar.
There's no widening or digging beyond the existing.
No, the only excavating they're doing again is for the water main, but there is air spading required of the contractor, so they have to air spade prior to the excavation. So they take the blacktop off and air spade the gravel off by 8 inches, and do the major root cutting, and then go by with the trench. Hopefully on the right side of the, not the tree side, but the other side. But I'll be up there with Bob Nelstrom, and I gave him our tree list and planting guidelines, which talks about a lot of the protection from center spading. So that's another project. We're going to be doing the same thing over here on Hampton Avenue. It's going to be a total reclaim as well. So there'll be tree protection involved, sidewalk panels are going to be replaced, and there is that KVI flexi pavers going to go back, plus air spading.
Where's that?
Hampton Avenue, right over here by the brewery.
Yeah.
That's going to get all done over. You know, that's a
Oh, yeah.
reclaim, so that's a major construction project.
So flexi paving will now be used wherever it seems like we need it, because there are roots in the way.
Yeah, basically what I've asked the engineering department to do is create, you know, make it a standard spec along with the air spading and tree protection and any other type of tree, any type of tree regulation that we want to put together, because I think it's, you know, I'm requiring contractors through the planning board to do these things, so the contractors that actually work for us directly in bidded projects to put out the bids, we need to do the same. You know, it's got to be fair and equitable across the board.
Yeah.
So,
So when you redo sidewalks, they have large scale root interference that will flexi pave.
yeah, yep. That's
That's a big-
that's
big thing.
that's the goal. Yeah. And we'll see how it, you know, I mean, it's been proven to work well. We'll just see how it goes.
It's an experiment, see if it works well.
It is an experiment, but I think the more that we do it, the better off we're going to be in the long run, preserving some of the mature trees that we have that are in some of these places. I mean, when you're doing road construction, it's really hard not to have some kind of construction damage. So anything we do is a bonus. So getting the same consistent specs and, you know, basically like city specs, so the specs work for internal contracts that we issue ourselves, plus site plan projects that are approved through the planning board. So.
Do those apply to state highway projects? They can just do whatever they want?
Correct. They don't even have to have public shade, you can just cut them down. So they run a different.
Override everything.
They run a different operation. That's why there's one of the reasons why there's no point in us, as much as I'd like to see Bridge Street planted all the way to Marshall Street, because it would look really beautiful, because it's totally bare there. They could just, unless they sign some kind of agreement with it. I didn't want to mention, we got to take care of what's inside the street.
Yeah.
Well, that flexi pay stuff too will be, you know, it's not just about the trees, it's like stormwater.
It is.
You know,
It is.
like
Yeah.
anywhere, like stormwater isn't gonna run into the street.
No, it's correct, it's gonna,
You know,
instead of
it's
going,
big.
it's gonna run right across there and just go.
Right,
So,
exactly.
which is a big difference.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I probably have other things that I just don't remember to be talking about. I'll probably have some more things like that. Most of the other stuff I want to talk about is all encapsulated in the agenda.
Per the previous minutes, did you confirm or have any further discussions on becoming tagged in the core group of the resiliency plan?
Yes, I met with Wayne and David Valletta. Basically, I replaced the director. She was very happy about it. She absolutely no problem. So we've had one meeting, and they're actually in the process of putting out the RFP that,
Ultimately, and then
yeah, so they're, and yeah. So it's in progress, but Wayne's in Europe for a couple of weeks.
Correct. Moving on then to your next topic, the significant tree ordinance changes.
Okay, so you all have a copy of the mayor's cover letter. You might want to. I apologize for the.
Can you give me a quick because I wasn't here last time, a quick backstory of why this is happening?
So, one of the issues that they're finding is that there's been a great discussion about sustainability and how to marry the two together in regards to public shade trees and zero energy buildings. So one of the issues is that because of the change in subdivision regulations, but the ability for us to actually make non-conforming lots conforming now. There is, for example, two locations, they're both on the Middle Road. One is the Habitat for Humanity project, which is developing the old Kemper estates, and they're actually, to pay for the whole project, they're actually building, the city to pay for the whole project. To take that whole parcel over, part of the deal was that there was 3 or 4 building lots there. So that particular project is covered by the significant tree ordinance. The other project that's on Glendale is the potential project for the new dog park. It also is the same type of setup where they are actually looking to offset the cost of purchasing the land and developing it by being allowed to build multiple houses, and I think there's 4 in there. So part of the issue is that that is an old growth pine location, never really been, old growth, I mean, probably maybe 100 years old, everything about 100 years old is basically flat in those areas, it's all fields. So the mayor, trying to balance out exactly how we're going to do this. Originally one of the discussions was to change the significant tree ordinance to minimize the value of coniferous trees. So after multiple discussions with Carolyn and the mayor, and we met, I basically, that was originally on the table as well in this packet. I basically suggested to them, I did a lot of reading, and I actually brought some paperwork with me that showed that, coniferous trees really apply year round. Just because it's the winter time, it doesn't mean they don't absorb stormwater. And it doesn't mean that they're not scrubbing the air with pollutants. And their value in the urban landscape is a lot greater than I think a lot of people give them credit for. Just don't use them in a lot of street view plans because of obvious reasons. So with that, took that off of there because there was going to be a different scale or a different number used. So for significant trees, for coniferous trees, it was going to be larger, like 25 to 30 inch trees. Anything under that would not be considered that. So anyone could cut down trees that were 25 inches in DBH that were coniferous, but they'd have to still stick to the deciduous 20 inch. So with that said, I said I didn't want to split. I didn't want to split the ordinance. I wanted to keep it the same. The other piece of the ordinance change was the zero, which is in the mayor's cover letter here, which is the net zero energy building issue. And he basically wrote this cover letter for all of us, for you to really read from him, because this is his recommendation of what he'd like to do. It says, thank you for your most recent meeting with me and Carolyn Lynch to discuss potential updates to the city's significant tree ordinance and bringing up potential proposed amendments to the Public Shade Tree Commission for discussion. The most significant proposed change is to create an exemption for tree removal associated with the construction of net zero energy buildings. This issue has arisen recently in the context of 2 separate projects where the city's goals of encouraging sustainable design and construction of homes has come into conflict with its interest in preserving significant trees. One of the projects includes the requirement for affordable housing, which adds yet another competing public policy goal to the mix. This change would allow a market rate or affordable home builder the option of building a conventional home subject to the significant tree mitigation payment requirements, or to opt instead to build a net zero energy home in order to obtain an exemption, with both scenarios providing an environmental benefit. A concern with the current framework is that the potential tree mitigation costs may actually create a financial disincentive to build a more expensive to construct net zero energy building. The other proposed changes to the ordinance, including to Chapter 350, Section 11.5, serve to clarify this and strengthen the significant tree ordinance. These includes allowing replacement trees of 1-inch caliber diameter, requiring an inventory of significant trees prepared by an arborist, and specifying that trees and tree protection plans must be included in any proposed landscaping. Thank you again, and please let me know if you have any questions or concerns, either before or after your conversation with public safety officials. Sincerely, David J.
I didn't understand whether the 1-inch caliper trees would be allowed under these particular types of circumstances, or just general?
In general, because it had to be 2.5 inch.
Oh, it was 2.5.
It was 2.5, it was 2, I think it was 2.
I just read it this morning.
It was 2?
2-inch diameter,
Yeah, so.
but only half, like if the tree is 20 inches,
Yeah.
you only have to replace 10 inches of, like, half that amount of
Correct.
diameter.
But I think what Rob's, correct me wrong, I think he wasn't questioning the DDH,
Oh.
but I think he was questioning why they changed from to 1 inch for the replacement. And the reason we did that, I asked for that, is because of the fact that we are planting trees that are 1.5 inch caliper DBH that are grow bags that are more successful. So I'm trying to encourage people who are doing replacement plantings in these projects also use grow bag trees because they're more successful.
That's great.
Well, first I just have a question about the process for this.
Yes.
So is this being brought to our committee to discuss and give feedback on what we think of these proposed
Yes.
changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the reason that, so this would, after, if you have no, other than, if there's any kind of discussion or questions, we'll go back to the mayor and Carolyn mentioned, we will reconvene and discuss this with that. If there are no issues, then it goes from here to, we'll go to city council, and then it'll be sent off to some committee of some sort to review this. And then it would come back to a full council vote.
Well, I have, can I just say my comment?
Sure.
Okay, so the thing about the 1-inch replacement trees,
Yep.
right now it says if you have a 20-inch tree, you have to replace it with a total of 20. Like if you lined up 10 1-inch trees, they'd be 20 inches long. They'd be 10 inches long. So you don't even, I just feel like it's already really low as it is with the 2-inch diameter trees. You'd have sort of like,
Five of them.
yeah, you'd have 5 2-inch diameter trees like that
So
compared
how
to a 20-inch tree, which is like this.
Right.
So you have a little narrow, if you take all the diameter and add it together, it's not like you have the whole,
You
even
know,
a
because the
10-inch
significant
diameter.
ordinance, the tree ordinance, the way it's written, it's 50% of the DBH.
Right.
So no matter what, that's not on the table to be changed.
Yeah.
Well,
Well-
all the 1 inch does is the 1 inch gives us the ability to plant trees that are smaller than 2.5 inch DBH. That is part of the subdivision rules and regulations and this ordinance presently as it's written.
Right, I
So it
understand.
gives us the ability to plant trees that are not basically B and B. Because anything that's
Uh-huh.
2.5 inches
Right.
is basically B and B.
Right.
So it gives us the opportunity to plant smaller trees that
Yeah.
will be more successful. And actually, I think is going to encourage more planting because, for example, Habitat for Humanity, everything's done by volunteers. So you're going to have, and we know from our own experience with volunteers here that we actually have struggled to plant B&B trees with
Yeah,
volunteers.
yeah, right.
So in the grand scheme of things, if Habitat's going to go ahead and plant trees, we want them to be successful in planting. So 1 inch to 1 inch and 1.5
Right.
trees would be easier to plant.
Just going back to the basic math, I think we all agree would then be, instead of 2-inch trees, 5 2-inch, would be 10 1-inch trees. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So-
Right,
so
I get that, which-
Basically, you just get that, so if it's a 20-inch street, that we have a 20-inch street, they have to replace it in kind with 10 inches of TVH or whatever the cost is.
I understand it, yeah. I guess,
So
my-
this is a net benefit though, because we get more trees.
In the long run.
In the long run. you
Well,
get-
Well, let me-
Molly's point has always been the
I'm-
mass.
right, exactly. That's what I'm
Well,
saying. You get the same, like, length if you line them all like this, and you get more trees, which is good, but you actually are cutting in half the, the width
Yeah, you're looking at
of
area as
benefit.
opposed to radius.
Area of, like,
As
the
opposed
base.
to radius.
Right.
The radius adds up to
Right,
the
so a
same.
1-inch tree, like, 2 1-inch trees doesn't equal a 2-inch tree.
Right.
Like, 3 of them would, or 4, exactly like that.
But in terms of planting, if you plant 10 1-inch trees as opposed to 5 2-inch trees,
Mhm.
you're way ahead.
Oh, why?
Because this, this is partly Cornell writes it, the Cornell documents. The speed of the recovery, the smaller the tree, so you
Oh.
basically take off almost a year of time
Oh.
for each of TBH. So if you plant the little trees, they'll probably catch the larger ones. And of course now we have twice as many. So 5 years down the road, you're gonna have more 3 years. That quickly you'll have more overall tree.
As long as they're not putting a bunch of containers.
Well, yeah,
The other thing I wanted to just.
Oh, that's an issue that Kansas brought in. If they just, they'll probably all end up being container trees.
Well, you know what, Bill, the nice thing about this is that I get to go and review all the work.
Yeah,
And
Oh.
they have a 2-year, they're responsible for 2 years.
yeah.
So we'll know in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
If the container tree is going to fail.
Do our tree planting guidelines specify like B&B or grow bag versus a container? I mean, we could, because they did add a reference to the planting guidelines in the ordinance, so we can go and tweak that.
And that's a moving document, that's
Or
correct.
have a page,
Yeah.
Well, right here. 'cause-
draft a page over of
You-
our
yeah.
experience. We've, this is our preferred sequence of,
Well, in this change, it
Production.
doesn't say you can go ahead and do what you've been doing with 2-inch trees, or you can plant 1-inch.
Well, it says here, it shall have a minimum.
Yeah, it says.
So you can plant
Right.
2-inch trees, if that's all you can get, you can plant them.
Right.
So whatever the planting, so when the plan comes to Carolyn, it gets reviewed and then it gets forwarded to myself and David Coletta. David reviews all the engineering aspects, but I review all the tree.
But that was my question, Rich.
Yeah.
So even if we sign off on this, if there's another project that might threaten significant trees, they still have to.
Yeah, that part of the ordinance doesn't change.
Okay.
So the main component of the ordinance change is what the mayor stated in his cover letter, which was allowing for net zero buildings up to 10,000 square feet. The reason they did 10,000 square feet is because they wanted to ensure, so projects like the one in Habitat for Humanity, there's 4 houses there at 2,000 square feet each. So when you bring a plan in front of the planning board, in that particular case, it's not for individual, it's not for the individual lots, it's for the whole project. And if you have 8,000 square feet of living space or construction space that's being built, it would not meet the 10,000 threshold. So you have up to 10,000 square feet. It's not necessarily for commercial. I know it sounds kind of strange, but it was easier than trying to divide up. It was easier, I think, than doing it that way than trying to divide up individual lots. Saying, you're only allowed to have so many buildings in a particular project. 10,000 square foot mark is important. Per project.
Per project, not per building?
That's correct. Per
It's not
project.
clear the way it's written.
So just to be clear, Rich, what we would agree upon is if there's going to be developments which would require the removal of trees, it would have to be for net zero housing, up to 10,000 square.
That's correct. So the significant tree ordinance, that would be exempt from the significant tree ordinance.
And what about the dog park? Is that,
The dog park that would be, if this gets passed, the dog park would be same as the Habitat for Humanity. It would be, I'm not sure how many buildings, there's like, I think there's 4 or 5 houses going in there.
And what triggers the significant tree ordinance to begin with is if the project has a site plan.
That's correct.
And has been.
That's correct.
Okay.
So any A&R projects don't have to have a site plan. So somebody who wants to, if Todd wanted to sell the side lot and build a small house over there, I would only just be there to check the driveway. Any significant trees, it would already cut the whole thing down.
I don't have a side.
Yeah, but I'm just using it as an example.
And you
I
would,
do.
what is that?
Approval not required.
Oh.
All right, so hypothetically, if, let's take the dog park example specifically.
Yep.
So I imagine that it is the dog park and the X number of net zero houses is submitted together.
Correct.
So because the square foot of the net zero houses is under 10,000 feet,
Yep.
the entire project is exempt from the significant tree ordinance, including the dog parks part.
That's a good question. I would say no, I would say it's just the actual building lots.
Yeah, well, if I was the developer, my lawyer would say, yeah, so I think it needs
So-
work.
So that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, because you could easily exempt yourself from a 1,000-acre project by building under 10,000 square feet of net zero houses.
Well, that's why we brought this
So specify housing plan.
Hard to write it though, because it will, in future projects,
Well, that's because they're capping, in my opinion, the wrong thing. You should cap the number of trees that get, the DBH of the significant trees that get taken down. Maybe you cap both, but I'm not convinced that a net zero house is worth locally the loss of multiple significant trees, just worst case scenario, whatever, you build one little net zero house and you strip your entire lot. That to me does not make sense. Now, if there is a tree that is critical, it's got to go for the design of the net zero house, and there's a rational nexus between the loss of the tree without mitigation because of the net zero house, that makes more sense than the way it's currently written, which one could easily find gigantic loopholes in this and strip
Log the whole
a
thing.
20-acre lot
Yeah.
for one net zero house.
So you could say, if you're going to build a net zero house, you can take 5 trees or 10 trees, or there has to be.
Or a net zero house or whatever under X square feet is exempt of the significant tree ordinance up to whatever,
So many
or
trees.
50 inches DBH of significant trees or something along, whatever. But right now, there's no logical nexus between the two. My second point is, who certifies that it's a net zero house? I would recommend you use LEED standards. It's not written in here, but maybe it's in the definition somewhere, but it should be certified by an independent third party.
And some language to cover what you said before about, here's the dog park for net zero house parcel. The tree removal exemption only applies to the net zero house building lots,
Yeah.
not other
Right.
use areas or
Yeah,
whatever, however
right.
you
That
want
makes
to
sense.
label that.
Right.
Because you're right, somebody's gonna, it's way easier to not operate around trees, so they'll just cut down every single thing in there.
But if you limit the whole project to so many DBH, 50 ducks, then they can only cut down so many trees.
Right, right. I mean, that's another.
That might be
I-
a way of capping.
Well, it's also it's much more realistic, because 90% of the time, a good designer is going to find a way to work around significant trees, even if it is a net zero house.
So tree removal only applies to net zero lots within the overall site plan.
Yeah, or within X number of feet from the building envelope of the net zero house. mean, why should a tree taken down 400 feet away from the net zero house be exempt from
So
putting up a
the
house?
next number of feet of the
Proposed building envelope of the net zero house.
And how they're living in there, there's a certain band or everything.
Yeah, there's more than one way to skin that cat, but right now, in my opinion, it's very loosey.
So what's your recommendation for how it should be? So, you know, you have to decide.
For what, for figuring out the distance?
Well, Todd has a couple of parameters. One, this is an envelope.
Well, the main recommendation is that there's a logical and more strict nexus between the cutting down of the significant tree without ramifications and the construction of a net zero house. And that it definitely not apply to the entire project just because you throw in 3 net zero houses. Because Hospital Hill could have built net zero houses under 10,000 square feet and then stripped the entire parcel. Now, that, in my opinion, that's the intent of this, because the intent is to have the city not have to mitigate with trees in the dog park, but a private developer is going to take that run.
Okay. You want to send me your, email me your comment? All right, just work it. Anybody else have any?
Do you want me to draft a 1-page for the, regarding types of, like, production systems, which we, you know, what we recommend we, for the 1-inch
Yep.
thing? I could do like a
Yep.
1-page
Yep.
for the guidelines, and
Yep.
you can change it whatever way you want to change it.
Anyway, I have to, update that, so yes.
Okay. I can do that.
The other thing that, so one of the things
Can I
that's.
ask another question?
Yeah.
After the 2 years that they have to maintain the trees, what happens to them? They're not public shade trees, so they're not in the
Private-
cities.
Private trees.
So then they could just cut them down after 2 years?
Yep.
Oh, that seems pointless.
There's no mechanism to capture them as public shade trees.
Oh, these are the trees that they have to plant.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's concerning.
yeah, they could just cut down these big trees and plant some more and maintain for 2 years and then just cut those all down.
It's possible, it's private property. Unless you have an agreement that's, signed seals with the registry of deeds.
Oh.
The tree warden and the resident and the property owner, there's not much you can do.
Hypothetically, Rich, if we declined this, then those lots would not be able to be developed? Or would there be a way to work around it?
Well, because the commission is only advisory, the mayor would take your comments under advisement and decide to proceed however you felt was necessary to make the appropriate changes. So I think it's better to send the comments back the way I'm going to, and then we'll see what comes out of it. Two things that came out of this that were actually better than, were good, is that there is language now that's going to be in here that will be actually true inventory. Because what's happened in the past is that the inventory is considered, usually has been in a single page of the site plan that just basically shows you the present conditions, and it just lists the trees and their size. It does not actually go into location, species, size, health, long-term viability, which is actually going to help me to determine, if there's a tree that's 21 inches and it's unhealthy, a certified arborist is going to actually give you that information, and we're going to say, okay, that one can be removed, it doesn't belong in the tree or the city of the tree ordinance. Right now, it doesn't work that way, so for me to go out there and look around, I got to walk through a wood lot and try to determine what tree is what if they don't have them tagged. It takes a lot of my time. And the other thing is that the language for the tree listing planting guidelines will be cemented in an ordinance, which I think is a win-win, because that has been, it's going to be language that has to be used, and then we actually get to update that, and then it gets to be changed again. So, I'm okay with the way it's written, although I do understand Todd is saying, and I will definitely send that back to Carol, so we can further discussion. If there's anything else that pops out, please, don't state.
I think what Todd brought up is incredibly important and shouldn't really run counter at all to what they're trying to do, because you can make it a greater and greater distance or more and more trees if you want to be looser and say, you know.
Is there any way to work around that they would have the option of removing them after 2 years? Is there any way to
That's a good question too. I don't know.
help those?
I don't know, I don't know that you can, I don't think you can, without actually giving the home, it'd be like me going to your property and saying, I want to make that tree a public shade tree. You're going to say, well, what are you going to give me? And I'm going to say, well, I'm going to pay you for it. Here's my payment. You're going to say, great, thank you very much. It's all yours. And you sign away on it. But there's no way to, under NGL Chapter 87, there's 2 ways to have public shade trees. They have to be on or within the public right of way, or they have to be a tree that is planted as a setback tree when there's a legal agreement between the resident and the tree warden of the community. So without actually compensating the resident, there's really no way of making it a public shade tree. Because you can't, this ordinance, ordinances can't supersede Mass General law. Bolster just can't. In the sense of the bolster local, but you can't make your own Mass General law.
And it's clear that the replacement trees are above and beyond the required trees per subdivision rules and regs and site plans.
Yes.
So you can't say, well, these are my replacement trees.
Yes.
So the only way you could preserve the tree that is a replacement tree is to put it on property that the city holds the CR for.
That's correct. That's why I think it's also,
Conservation.
yeah, either that or they actually are required. So the other thing to do is that they decide not to do any replacement trees. They actually pay for the cost, which is really what most communities that have this kind of ordinance people end up doing.
Wait, say that again?
They just write a check.
Oh.
So I'm cutting down, 100 inches of a significant tree. Here's the check. And it goes into the tree fund, and then we use it to buy trees or do tree work, preservation, whatever it may be. That's the easiest and cleanest way to do it, but Habitat for Humanity, that type of project is because of how it's funded, they don't have those kind of projects.
Right.
So there's it has to be somewhat of a give and take. But obviously, a developer, as Todd has said, could take that 10,000 square foot deal and kind of run with it, So there has to be. There's limitations, but there is a little give and take in this. So I'll send the comments to Carolyn and we'll take a look at it and bring it back.
Is there anything in here about what kind of trees they can plant?
They will be using the tree listed planting guideline. So that document.
They are obligated to use.
That's correct. It's an ordinance obligated to use the trees. And I'm going to try to encourage that people plant more coniferous trees, especially in places for screening.
Well, marginal sites, there's a reason why those white pines are growing where they are,
Yeah.
Sandy soil.
Yeah, they're using more marginal, hot or dry and, poor fertility. That's why they're there. They
So-
like it.
Do you want me to draft a brief comment?
Yeah.
Does the committee want to authorize me to draft that per our conversation?
Yes.
Yes.
Why don't you do that? Need it.
Go Todd.
Go, please.
Start, thank you.
Loose motion. All right.
Do you want it in a motion form?
Sure.
I move that we empower Todd to write our comments regarding this tree ordinance changes and forward them to Rich and Mayor and Carolyn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Neighborhood planting plan. Let's go, you, Rich.
Actually, I put it on. I asked it to be on the agenda because I ran into a resident a couple of days ago, or actually last week, that is interested in banding together with his neighbors to plant a section of Prospect Street across from Child's Park. So I just wanted to follow back up to find out exactly
Yeah.
where,
are we? I think it was ready to go on to the website.
I don't believe that I ever got,
Somebody was gonna put it on the website.
well, I need to have the link for it, unless I already have it. I'm just,
Is that your memory, Marilyn?
Say that again, Lloyd?
Is that your memory, that it was ready to go onto the website? Because you were working on that
The
too.
application for the neighborhood plan.
see.
Yeah, well, we had drafted it and then Lily was gonna finalize it.
Oh.
So Lily still has it?
So I'm not sure if she still has it or if you have it.
Yeah, there was going to be a dry run with a
Oh, Orchard Street,
self-selected, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know.
Okay, all right. So anyways, I have a resident who's interested in getting together with his neighbors
Oh.
and planting
Great.
a section of Prospect Street from Jackson Street, basically up to,
Oh.
the actually Prospect Avenue.
I think there's a pretty big tree built up there too, isn't it? On that side of the street?
Yeah, it's
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 pretty
decent
wide.
size, it just has, it's gonna require underwire trees.
Oh,
So as far as I know, the application is done, I just don't know if it's been field tested, which was going to be the first step, right?
The application,
Yeah,
yes, is going to go up on the website.
Yes.
eventually,
Yeah,
yeah.
as, when I was trying to, as I've been going around and talking to people, and I apologize, my daughter's calling
Go ahead.
me. All right, I'll step off. I'm just trying, I'm trying to, people that are interested in, some people are doing on setbacks, other people want to do actually plantings in the right of way, so I'm encouraging folks that are interested to actually look at this document and see if they can ban their neighbors to do a planting, neighborhood planting plan for 2019. Excuse me for that.
Alright. Well, whoever has the link of that application, just give it one more check and send it to Rich so that he has it.
I don't, do you have? I thought it was Lily. Yeah, Lily.
Yeah, I'll
She's
ask.
on a bike somewhere.
She's on a bike, okay. Will she be here at the next meeting?
She might have wanted to use it once before putting it up there. I don't know.
I thought she said she wanted to try it out with Orchard Street, but I'm not sure
yeah,
where that's at.
that's what I remember, just at work with Bug.
Yeah, you had one person who was going to test it for us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's been done.
Okay, well, I'll ping Lily, but there's no guarantee she'll
Okay.
respond.
Did she have anyone on Orchard Street?
Yeah, she had at least one family in mind, right?
Yeah.
Because she used to live in that neighborhood. Yeah. So they were gonna test it.
Just for the
Run through
sake of the format, the paperwork working,
Yeah.
that was the,
That's great.
yeah,
That's where it is.
I do remember.
Okay, the planting plan planning update, not much of an update. Did we form a committee to go over the
Yes.
planting plan?
There was.
Okay, did I? Okay, I dropped the ball on
I was
that.
not on the committee. I think Rob was
Huh?
on it.
I imagine, yeah, since I wrote
I
it.
thought it was Jen, Todd, and Rob.
All right,
Yeah.
the minutes. We need to look at the
And
minutes.
Rich. Wait, that's what, I couldn't remember what it was called.
Was it last meeting's
Yeah,
minutes?
exactly.
Because I tried to, well, this is where I got confused. I emailed, and then you and Lily and somebody met with Rich.
That was different though.
Rich,
but-
Jen,
But-
Todd.
And I got confused, like,
Right.
what that was about versus what this was about.
I now
I got a
remember
little
that,
derailed.
I apologize. So the three of us, possibly with Rich, will get together in the next couple weeks to go over this, and I
Go
will,
over this.
yes, and I will
What
send
is
this,
it?
and I will send this around
Okay.
to the three of us,
That's-
so that we can look at it.
Your
Yes, sir.
plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
And you will convene, you will be the person that's...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, okay.
And since Rich was not here, did you hear any of that, Rich?
No.
Oh.
you're gonna rewrite this entire thing. No, I'm gonna convene a meeting of the group that I forgot existed, and we'll go over the planting plan, turn it into a song, and move on from there.
It's a lot of,
All right, yep. all
Okay,
right.
the 4 people are Todd, Jen, Mitch,
Yeah, Rob, Jen, me.
and Rob, yeah, not Jay.
All right. The other two subcommittees, moving on, the other two subcommittees we have are the planting priority subcommittee, which I gather has not met since our last meeting, as well as the site plan subcommittee, which I know has not met since our last meeting. So let's get through the planning process, bring it back to the full group for discussion, and that hopefully will enable us to kind of kick off the more formalized, if you will, for lack of a better word, process, which will then engage the other subcommittees. And hopefully create a process that can be recreated year after year.
Sounds good.
All right, sorry, Todd. Can you name the subcommittees again? I just saw-
The planting priority subcommittee,
Yep.
which was, it's,
You mean Lily?
That's
Yep.
what, yeah, that's what you just did.
Planting priority subcommittee.
and then the site plan
Oh.
subcommittee was, I think, again, me, Jen, and Rob.
Yep.
Oh, maybe that's what I was getting confused.
Yeah, let's get,
No, I think we're on two we're on two ad hoc subcommittees.
Planting
Can't vote.
priority
Okay.
subcommittee is me,
Okay,
Lily.
keep them
and Bob.
separate,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Lily and Bob.
Because
Yeah.
this is gonna be a
That's planning
redundant thing.
priority. That's
Planting
Nick,
priority subcommittee.
Planting priorities.
Molly,
Then there's site plan
Lily.
subcommittee.
Then there was the site plan group to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to the details of larger planting projects.
Like Cooley did, or the Pond Street.
Exactly.
That was-
So.
okay, Now I got it. And because
We are
this,
going to do actual, like, what are we actually planting there?
Yeah.
That- With the other folks, we're doing like, where are we planting what?
yeah.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly, very roughly.
And so the next step will be to bring a more detailed version of this
Okay.
planning outline to the group. We can move on.
And there's not a third subcommittee, just those two.
Well, that one, and then there's this, it's not an official subcommittee because it's only going to exist as long as it takes to create this document, and then
Okay.
it evaporates.
Todd, just, I think you probably have it on your agenda, but there's something about Paige's proposal for ordinance. Is that coming up in this discussion?
Not today, in my
Lily sent an email to me asking, okay,
printout. Didn't see it.
what?
I didn't see it,
So-
but it's not on the agenda.
All right.
But Tree Northampton has it. When we get there, we'll hear about it from there.
All right.
Other business not anticipated by me. Ordinance planning update. Rich, were you gonna kick us off and then I can jump in?
So on the 31st of May, Todd, I looked it up,
Very
Todd and
nice.
I met with Alan Sewell to discuss developing a local tree ordinance that would be driven by a permit process that Todd has drafted. We've got a couple of drafts that we've seen. We didn't bring any of the drafts because we have to, after our discussion with Attorney Sewell, he felt that it would be much more effective if we actually had a regulation that was embedded in our trench permit policy process and our driveway permit process that would regulate public trees, the impact of public trees. Instead of having an ordinance, he actually said that the mayor would not support the ordinance or another layer of legislation that we have to enforce. He said you can utilize the existing trench permit policy and the driveway permit policy we have to actually embed language in both of those documents discussing public shade tree impact.
Those are both city,
Those are present processes that we use in the Department of Public Works, that everyone has to have a trench permit for the regulating authority in Northampton. Every community is supposed to have a regulating authority that actually issues trench permits to anyone was on public or private property, digging a trench, the definition of what a trench is. In Northampton in particular, we're a little different because we make everyone on public property get a trench permit, even if it doesn't meet the definition of what a trench is according to the Massachusetts general law. So that way there we have the ability to actually go out and actually mark. So if someone's actually doing a driveway, for example, in public private, they're building a sidewalk in public private, they're not actually digging a trench according to the law, Megan's law. So, but we still need to get a trench permit because it's our way to say, okay, yes, there's water lines here. No, you're not meeting the standards for the concrete sidewalk and so on and so forth. So and that's where that public tree impact would be codified in there. So not only would we have MGL Chapter 87, but then we have our public tree, I'm not going to say impact permit because it's not going to be a separate permit, it would just be embedded in those documents. So instead of actually creating another document that we have to keep track of, we can utilize the existing processes that we have, just bolstering the language.
Does that work for you? Do you think that that's a good approach?
I think it works, it does work for the way that we are set up. I think the only thing that I would see where it would be a problem is if, for example, if they say I retired and they decided to hire a highway superintendent and then someone else was the tree warden, a totally individual person, that would just mean that there has to be more internal coordination between the two people. Because part of my duties as the highway superintendent is to see the trench permit, not necessarily the tree warden. So it works hand in hand in this community. The other thing too is that I think it would possibly be a question in my mind as to whether or not the policy needs to be changed and made into law regulation, which is more enforceable than a policy.
Could it be language put in there in the trench and the driveway permit that both tree warden and highway superintendent have to stamp it or whatever you do?
Yeah, there can be. Right now it's...
Right now it's you, but...
It doesn't say me, it's the director of public works or his or her designee. So that way there,
somebody else could do it.
someone else can
They
do
have
it.
to.
Yeah, and that's how all
Yeah.
our documents are being changed.
Right.
Right. It's not an individual's name, it's
Right.
not an individual's position, it's the director, so everything starts at the top.
Right. Well, somebody's...
That's correct. So yeah,
Obligations.
language could be put in there. I mean, and the other language that's in there is also, standards, for example, for sidewalk and roadway repair have to meet Mass DOT specifications, blah, 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 the numbers, so those kinds of things are in there. So I already presently have on the front of the driveway permit, new driveway permit, so when somebody has a plan that's approved, an A&R plan to build a little house, they have to have a driveway, so they get this document, and it sits right in the top line. MGL, all public streets are protected by MGL Chapter 87, no construction shall start until the tree warden has given approval or something of that nature. So that's in bold already, but there's no explanation for that statement in the actual documentation package that a contractor or developer would get. It's not in there. It doesn't say that. There's not a paragraph dedicated to plant shade trees. So that's where we would actually put the language in there. And so that would also include trees that are setback trees that actually have an agreement.
You would notice that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there would be an agreement already in existence to follow that deed of that property.
You notice because he's got a tree keeper in the end there.
Yes, yes.
Is it not unusual for the mayor to want to reword or rework an ordinance rather than create a new one? Is that sort of a general practice?
That's a good question. I think the charter change gave, the administrative orders that the mayor, so that's how I was created, that's how the commission was created, the tree wards commission was created, gave the mayor more autonomy instead of actually going and actually creating an ordinance that was this commission is ordinance driven, the tree warden is ordinance driven, you know, we're all appointed here. And I think the mayor is probably easier to actually put into the language and make it a regulation than it is to actually drive an ordinance, because then you have to come with some testing to change the ordinance. I think the trench permit and the driveway permit regulations are all over the language of the building department. You know, so that's the other thing too, is that we want to make sure that the building department, as they issue a building permit, they, you know, they have their checklist on. One of them is the trench permit. The other one is driveway permit. And then, you know, the other one is, okay, public shade tree, not permit, but public shade trees are the impacted. That could also be kind of a part of that whole packet, because the developer has to come, or an individual has to come and get all that paperwork done from us first before they can even go to the building department.
Okay, I made a mistake, sorry. So
Okay.
the mayor is not wanting,
To make he's not wanting to make this an ordinance.
so this is not an ordinance, so
Correct.
the regulation is through the permit process?
That's correct.
Okay, got
So
it.
you're using existing permitting processes that we have, that we can already utilize existing staff that exists to actually run this extra language and make sure that this is just an extra. So in the back of the, for example, I didn't bring one, but on the second page or the third page of the trench permit, there's a whole bunch of check boxes. So one of those boxes can be checked by himself, stating that, you know, there is or there is not an impact to a public shade tree. And if there is, then there's a whole other process they have to go through, because they have to meet with the tree warden, they have to understand tree protection, or if there's a public shade tree hearing, they have to have one, things of that nature. So it'll all be encapsulated in that existing document. The document's just a little longer. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
I left the meeting with the understanding that 90+% of what we wanted to accomplish in the ordinance could be accomplished through regulation. And then I think the next steps were that I and you maybe need to
We're going to draft
these things.
language,
So
yeah.
I might just need a 10-minute recap with Alan just to get my bearings again, but we can work on that.
Okay.
Are you concerned about the remaining 10% that will not be covered?
It's probably it's probably not a big deal. All right, so that's before a list of things to do. All right, Tree Northampton update.
I don't know. Maybe two.
All right, did you?
Yeah, I guess
Yes?
someone brought that.
I brought it, but it was going to be done under any other business.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, I guess I have one little bit of business that Lily received an email from Paige, very urgently urging us not to start planting trees before the incident. It's always an entire landscaping plan for all the tree belt and this property that would be more, create a non-monoculture tree, more interesting, more diverse landscape. And in the email, she said she wouldn't be at the meeting, so and she would just bounce this up to Todd, and he would take care of it. So I guess we don't really have to think about it or do anything as long as we're not really moving forward quickly with Cooley-Dickinson. I don't know who's working on it or whether we are.
No, I think the Cooley-Dickinson plan would go before the site plan subcommittee.
Before the,
Site, me,
yeah,
you, Jen, we work with Rich to create the site plan.
right.
So we're not even close to that, are we? No.
Okay, so it's probably not this fall.
I guess, so this is my take on it.
You saw the email?
I saw the email.
Okay.
The only, so our jurisdiction here is really only on trees that are in the public right of way, or my jurisdiction as a tree warden. Is trees in the public right of way or trees that actually are on city property in the parks and cemeteries.
What?
The parks and cemeteries.
Right.
setback trees only if they're agreed to by the actual owner of the property and the tree warden of the community. Those are under the tree warden's jurisdiction. Anything else, site plan on their, building mounds, planting shrubs, doing any of that kind of work is not in the purview of any of the commissioners or myself. If Cooley Dickinson wants to plant trees as setback trees and they enter into an agreement with us, fantastic. And then if they want to add plants to it themselves, fantastic. If they want to work with Tree Northampton to get volunteers to help them plant, that's fantastic to enhance the private organization. But as far as the commission, I think my take is as far as the commission working with Cooley Dickinson Hospital to actually develop a much larger landscape plan is not really in your purview. Nor is it in mine, nor do I even want to go down that path.
Right.
Personally.
Agreed, yes.
Right.
So I think planting trees is really what our mission is, and, obviously integrating them correctly in the landscape, especially if they're setback trees, we want to make sure that they're going to be successful. So Blue Dick said, we want to build 27 mounds, and we don't want your setback trees in the middle, they can't do that. So I think that we just have to be careful we don't go down this little road. I mean, I think it's good to have this discussion, and basically we would say to Blue Dick that, are you wanting any other kind of landscape plans before you enter into this agreement with us to plant, 10 setback trees? And they say no, so then we plant trees.
Now, that might be a good approach. Just tell Paige that we will ask them if they have a greater landscape plan.
Well, you can do that, I just don't think that
And
it's
you
our,
can do that.
if Cooley, I can reach out to them and say, are you going to be doing any kind of landscaping plan?
It would influence our plan.
It would influence our potential planting, but I think in order for us to do that, we have to show them a planting plan of some sort.
Right.
So,
Of the public shape.
Oh, right. of the
Within the
public
right of way
shapes,
and
that's
or.
correct.
Well, that answered Paige's question. We will, when we come up with a plan, say this is our plan for trees, we
Yeah.
have other plans for landscape.
Correct.
And we should let us
Correct.
know.
And I'm still trying to work with National Grid about the overhead utility on the left-hand side. They haven't got back to me, so.
So this is probably not this fall, it's probably next fall. We don't know.
Personally, to be honest with you, I don't, based upon what Ralph and I talked about, which is part of this conversation, this tree list here, is that we are basically going to be up to about 260 trees if everything goes well. That does not include any of the 45 elms that we may get from UMass. If that is the case, we get them, and still, the jury's still out.
So there was that.
Yes, go
Anything else
ahead.
you
Yeah,
can
no,
say?
I'm okay with Paige, I think.
There was a nice letter, short and concise, to the
I saw that
editor today from Ruthie.
Ruthie, yeah.
That was nice. She just said, thank you to DPW and Tree Northampton for the trees that have gone in and how important they are, how hot it's been. Very hot, not when there's a tree. So that's nice. We've done some work, finished the actual planting because of the heat, and we have done some work up at our little lots at the community garden, and on watering, and we're plugging along.
Looks pretty good.
How many plants to date there now?
We planted more than there are.
The experimental station.
Yeah.
That's true.
There were probably about 40 plants there, and there probably were about 50.
Some of them did
That's pretty good, that's pretty good though.
bare root.
Bare whips,
Whips, they come in the mail, and.
But that's a pretty good
Try to get
percentage,
them
to be
in.
honest with you.
And actually, we're just, as soon as we can, we have a couple of trees that were transplanted there this spring and into bags, and there are sites where we're going to go plant them. if we want. So we're beginning to, we'll have our first trees going out.
We've had some trees people have given us
Yeah.
that are decent, that weren't from whips or bare root. They're a little larger, and so it's fun. We have some flowers and things growing too, so it looks pretty good.
We should advertise our plot at some point. Okay? So
And we have
people-
nice signs.
So people can go see.
I
We're
think-
working on a sign that actually says Tree Northampton, and we originally saw the plots as part of the garden committee was very interested in us participating. And they're very supportive, like they offered volunteers to water, and they consider it their project too, just like a great. And by having a sign there, once it looks, as it looks better, to actually use it as outreach. The sign would say, Northampton.org, and gradually hopefully have some volunteers there interested. That's a really good audience. The people who care about plants, or people who just go up there to walk around. The people who would be interested in supporting and participating.
I thought the watering email you folks sent out was very good.
Oh, thanks,
I got
Rodney. I
that.
did
Yeah,
send out-
that was a great email.
Compiled a list of, with Alicia and Rob's help, of anyone who has received a setback tree from the city in the past year. So last spring, fall, this spring, over a year, all of those emails. And we wrote up an email to them that, you know, it's hot, there's thirsty trees, you know, check on the city's watering if they have tree bags, but make sure check out the tree bag, keep an eye on the trees. If you need help, let us know. If your tree doesn't have a tree bag, basically to water stuff. And think about the trees. We got a little bit of a response with the word abroad. Can you check my tree?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, and there's apparently business that I didn't anticipate.
So this list, and I apologize, it's single-sided, I don't know how to copy correctly, but so I wasted a couple of pieces of the bark. I actually got an extra page in the back now. So this is the trees that we planted this spring. There's 130 of them. Rob was so gracious to help me put this, actually he put the list together. And then Rob and I actually met this past Monday to talk about the fall planting and actually talk about trying to finish up some of the fall projects that we started. One of them is Bridge Street. We're going to try to finish Bridge Street so it's completely done. And that includes planting trees in front of the historic Northampton only after we have the parking spaces marked out. So sometime in August, there'll be actually bona fide parking spaces in there. So we can actually plant the trees in the middle of each parking space so they're not being smashed by car doors. And I did speak to Lori Sanders from the historic Northampton about it, so she's aware of it.
I think it's probably been spoken to me about her possibly doing some setback planting.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that to her, but they have a whole landscape plan that
Yeah.
they're changing their driveway configuration around, and I don't know where they're at with that, so I mean, I think it would be fine, we could do some setbacks there with larger trees, because it would be on the utilities.
Yeah.
But I think we could, and she was fine, she liked the idea of actually having it lined with trees.
Yeah.
Yep, she was happy about that.
Doesn't conflict.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
She said naturalist by profession.
Yes, yeah.
Training.
Yeah.
What's it?
Lori
Sanders.
Sanders.
Saunders or Sanders?
Sanders. Sanders.
Sanders?
S-A-N-D.
Just S-A-N?
Yeah.
So out of all these trees, I think we've had a handful of mortality, maybe less than.
Yeah, and some of those that died, we knew when we put them in.
Yeah.
Were not good. So predictably.
So we presently have about 300, almost 350 water bags right now. So we have trees from this spring planting, the majority, I think all of the trees from 2017.
It would be more than 350.
Yeah, we more than 350. So we don't have all of them from 2017, and we have a mix of those in 2016. Some of the ones that are in the tougher spots that are struggling. So the last count I had was 350. So since then, you've sent me
Added
emails.
some more, yeah.
And we've added some more, and I have to go over them. So I have one person. His name is John Altoff. He's a seasonal laborer, and that's all he does. Is he waters every day.
I saw him out one day. It was
And
nice to
he
see.
can do about 70 trees a day. So the average roughly is those trees are getting watered every 6 days. So we're getting 15 to 20 gallons, it's supposed to be in that range of that.
I noticed one over by Talbot's is gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't use that.
Yeah, they're a little experiment over there, we better go check it out.
Yeah, better, right?
Yeah,
Because
we just talked about that the other day.
That tree's a year or two old already.
Yeah.
So that's a bad sign.
So, we've had some mortality from other years, like the tree in front of Lawrence Market, the locust died. And then we've had other mortality of trees on Main Street that were older than that, but the trees in front of 1812 Auto Body, they were lindens, those died, so we have to replace them.
Yeah, the B&B lindens that we planted.
There's some trouble on Monroe Street, we lost another
We
one.
lost half of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So our goal is to get, we're gonna have Rob and I are presently working on two things. We're working on I think we have the locations for the trees, plants. We have the locations set where we want to continue to plant. We just have to find the stock. So Rob is in the process of actually, unless you've already done it, gone to Amherst Nursery to talk to John. We have to do some swapping of the plants because some of the plant material we spec'd out is not going to be suitable. So we're going to swap them out. Plus, we're working with Northern Nursery to maybe fill in some of the gaps. The other surprise thing is that the signs that we put out this year for the free trees to good homes has been nonstop. Telephone calls, emails. You can ask Terry, she'll tell you because she's still did a gazillion of them. And people are just like, yeah, I'll take a tree. Yeah, I want a tree. Yeah, what do I gotta do?
How long's the list? How long's the wait list?
Well, I have a lot of appointments and I've had so far meetings with 14 different people. And one person wants like 8 or 10 ginkgo trees on Florence Road.
Wow.
So on the corner of Florence Road and Park Hill. So I mean, the signs really have done a lot to advertise the program in a way that I didn't anticipate. Didn't anticipate that. I didn't
Is it
anticipate.
manageable? Is it?
It's barely manageable. And I actually was sending, I did
I saw,
correspond with
I still
some, with
yeah.
Alicia, and I CC Tree Northampton, because I think one of the suggestions that I had at the meeting we had with Rob the other day was that I'd like to reconvene with Tree Northampton to meet with them to actually have Tree Northampton folks go and meet with the residents first. So that takes me out of the picture in the very beginning.
That's a good idea.
And then when it comes to the actual final document being the wet signature and notary stamp, then I would come in and meet with them. But I think Rob was gonna let me know when there was another meeting, if there is one, before the
Is that
end of the summer.
Yeah, we did it before. We have to do it again. We can stop doing setbacks. As well as the organization. Yeah, we did. We did meet a lot of people. And just the only thing that comes out of those new meetings is we should start writing down early the trees and knowing that like the 10 ginkgo trees, we're not going to put 10 ginkgo trees there until next year.
Yeah.
So we somehow have to have a system for just kind of informing people and knowing that we're preparing for it.
So what I've done is I've told folks that first and foremost that, you may not get the tree until the following spring.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of availability. And that's why every site visit I go to, I look at what they have and what I think we have available. And even then, it still changes because Rob could go to the nursery tomorrow and the trees that he tagged for this fall could be leafless because of the weather. We don't know that. So it's an ever-changing progress. But I think one of the important things is that if we make an agreement with the resident for setback, then we have to honor it because it's a stamped legal document. So we have to find a way to honor it. So it's important that we do the setbacks correctly.
And so when you say honor, it has species on it.
Yes. So yes, that's the way to identify that because you could say 3 trees and then the agreement in the registry of deeds is, well, what 3 trees is it?
Right.
That we have 10 trees on our property. So it's actually driven by species.
So it ups the ante a little bit. in terms of,
So a lot of those meetings, I've only come out of them with, I have 3 agreements, and I have 2 that are filed. The rest of them are all hanging in balance based upon inventory. And that's a logistical problem. So one of the things that Rob and I talked about was actually, because of the fact that John is so busy and struggles in a sense to get some of the tree stock that we want, or some of the tree stock that we are requesting for setbacks, we're not able to get. We may end up actually doing some setbacks with larger trees, because they might be individual trees instead of long strings of trees. So we have projects like, for example, we did the Bridge Street. We did a lot of, the majority of those are all rollback trees, and it was all done by volunteers. That's really easy to do. A setback planting because it's an individual tree or two trees, would have to be something that would be bridged between this DPW and tree Northampton to get it done. But in order to satisfy the setback planting that people want, we may have to go and get B&B trees, which sometimes there's more of a diverse. We're finding anyways, there might be a little more diversity.
You know, Rich has found a very good supply, of pretty much, within the B&B world, pretty much whatever trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least over a period, like,
Yep.
if you give it a few months or a year, you get it.
So it's taken off, and I think it would be, I think that we'll have to go back and revisit the numbers that we originally kind of loosely set when we talked about, 150 trees and tree belts, and X amount of trees for setbacks, and X amount of trees for this, because I think that the more advertising we do for the free trees, it seems to be, it's not shifting it greatly, but the potential does exist to shift it greatly. So there's two ways to do it. You keep it at the 250 mark, or you increase the 250 mark and still keep, 150 trees in the tree belt, and, you increase that other end of setback trees. But I don't know, it's an experiment. It's all experimental.
Are the setback trees, would it be worth tagging them or at least marking them on the,
Well, I think one of the things that we're still trying to figure out is, for example, like Bridge Street. We don't have, we have crab apples planted over there. I really don't want to plant a whole section of crab apples. So Rob is investigating with John if he can get some Hammermackie.
And also Winter King Hawthorne.
Winter King Hawthorne, which we can't find at Amherst. So if I go to the Northeast
Northeast Nursery
Nursery, Colin, he can get trees because he is just one satellite of multiples. They can get stuff from everywhere.
Right.
And I have to say that the stuff that I planted from them has been pretty nice stuff. Their root balls have been really nice. The fiber roots have been really good. I planted a nice tulip tree at Bridge Street School, and it's, but it took time. I have to dig the hole twice the size. I have to have help putting the thing in. It's not doing the grow bag method, which really, we can make numbers. We can make our numbers with nice nursery stock using the grow bag method and using volunteers. The more we have to lean on, larger B&B, we're going to cut down on our production. Or I shouldn't say our production, I guess, but in our goal. So it's just something to think about. So it's just like just kind of a moving target we're trying to pin down. Maybe someday it'll be cool, I don't know.
Thanks for bringing the list, because we come to the meetings and we throw out, this is how many trees were
Yeah.
planted. I think it's helpful for you to just see
Yeah.
the details.
And then
each
I wanted to
tree.
follow up, Molly, with you. Do you still want to plug this
Yeah.
in the spreadsheet, so I'll
Yeah.
send you the electronic version?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Spreadsheet. Molly wanted to, at the last meeting we had, Molly said she was willing to help out and actually keep an Excel spreadsheet. And build it out by, by year, so we can actually look
That's awesome.
and search in a couple different ways to find where the trees are located. That way there we have it instead of a Word document. And
That would be helpful. Send it, make it available to us, because we can actually see.
Well, I can do it as a Google Doc.
Share
Yeah,
your
Works the same
that's what I
way.
mean, to make it
And
available.
Google
I
spreadsheet.
would, you can search it the same way you search.
I think so. I've never actually tried to do that with a Google spreadsheet, Can you
What you
search
want to do
it?
is you want to parse out, have a column for the date that the tree went in, and then a column for the street number,
Oh,
a column for the street name.
yeah.
Then one could sort it by street name and then number, and you would get a consecutive list.
Yeah.
Versus if you put 10 Holly Street in the column and you try to sort it, you're going to get 10
this,
holly,
10 this, yeah.
10 stoddard, and, all mixed up together. So you want to parse out
Yeah, okay.
all the data as much as you can, and then you can do more with it.
But can you do that with Google as well as Excel? Same, it works the same
Google
way.
Sheets do basically functions of
Everything.
Excel. Maybe not all the function of Excel, but for our little purposes.
I'll do it on Google, then everybody can
Pivot
look at it.
table.
Do you, Rich, do you have a
They're
format of
simple.
how you want the table to look? Or what you exactly want in it?
I have to think about it.
All right.
I'll send you.
Just let me know.
Yeah, at the same time, Rich, you're entering this, you've already started working on this.
Yeah, I've got about 40 of this list entered, and I should have the rest done by the end of August. so-
Entered in tree.
Right, now, I don't know whether it would be useful or not, but Rich does have the power to pull an Excel sheet out of,
I can. I
Actually,
can, but I'll be truthful with you, what's helpful for me, entering things in the tree, because there's just not enough time for me to sit. If I enter the day after Rob plants the trees and I know they go in the ground, if I sat that whole day and entered, I can get it all done. But I don't have that luxury. So what I do is I rely upon the individual emails that he sends me, and then I need to check it off against another document. So it would be good if it was an Excel spreadsheet.
The whole point of the spreadsheet was to be more live as opposed
Yes.
to tree keeper, which is going to
That's
run
correct.
6-8 months behind.
Right, which is, because I also have to close out other work orders in regards to mature trees that are removed and to replace trees. So it can be one location, I can enter 10 trees like that, or it takes, in the same time, I can close out one work order and enter 2 trees for the other location. Just because it's a whole process you have to go through. And it would be with any database, because this database is pretty friendly, actually.
So is this the beginning of what's going to go into it?
Yes.
This data?
Yes.
So I could start setting it up and entering this data now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then what I could also give you is I could give you the tally from last year, so you can just have some tabs at the bottom.
Oh, do a
Google Docs-
tab for each year?
Yeah, Google Docs allows that.
Probably.
Have a tab, and then we can just go back and forth. between
2018,
the tabs.
17,
Yeah.
16, okay.
Yep, and it would just make it easier for me to have a searchable document in that sense.
The only thing is if you wanted to search multiple years at a time, I don't know if you can do that if they're on separate pages.
Well, you just move it all to one. If you want to work, you can move it into it.
same document.
Yeah.
Like the master.
Oh, yeah, copy it
So
over.
you can make a master, yeah,
That's right.
or,
That's
you know,
right,
a working document.
Yep.
From that, but your master, you wouldn't be changing all the time. Place to put it, where it sounds like, is it would be more accessible than tree keeper is for people interested
Accessible
real time.
and live.
and
Yeah.
live.
To help inform the planning processes as we go
Faster
through.
Got it.
document.
They have a
And also
master
to-
plan that has all these.
And also to help us assess
Yeah.
before we start planning for the next
Oh,
year, so
wow.
we'll be able to see what happened
Yeah.
during the 12 previous months, plan for the next 12, meanwhile, he's playing catch-up.
So it would be valuable for him to pull out the past.
Don't forget too carried away.
Well, the other thing is to just do it on one whole sheet, but just have a column for year.
Yeah,
then you can
gotta
sort it by
you gotta
year.
sort it by year.
So maybe that's just easier
Year,
to do that.
address, ward,
I think I'll just do
species,
one-
setback, tree
Do you need
belt.
to have, Todd was suggesting I put ward and then check off whether it's setback or tree belt. Do you have that data? I mean, that I would be able to enter? And is that useful?
It is useful in a sense because tree keeper does require, if you have to, so if we planted trees that are not in, there's no vacant site there, then I have to enter a whole site with all the criteria. So I have to know what ward it's in, so that would be helpful. So I don't have this broken down like that. So for this particular venture, it doesn't take long for me to figure that out, though. It doesn't work too long. I'm just thinking of the words right now.
Is there significance of the asterisks?
It comes from my bookkeeping.
Okay.
It means it got planted.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just wondering what that.
I'll have it.
We have a list that looks like this, of
Yep.
unplanted ones.
Yep.
and then
Got it. Yep. Okay.
I don't want to make the job too big, but I have lists of the previous 2 years.
Excellent, yeah.
So if you do this,
It's gonna take a
I'll
while.
do those years, you do this year, Roland.
Okay, after.
Well, all right, we need to have
after
a,
Molly's
we need to have
formatted.
a consistent format.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Format it, and
yeah,
then
and then I'll have
you'll
to-
see it, and you'll we'll give you 2 more years.
I think you'll see that they've been planted in a lot of different places in the city too, in those years, where that has come up. Where,
Yeah,
they're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with the software folks at David to see when I can do a presentation and actually have another drop-down box and allow me to check. So for example, there's a drop-down box that lets you check parcels, you can check street trees, not street trees. I want them to develop a parcel block by project. So there's a project in 2016, 2017, 2018. And you can click each one of those in that drop-down box, and then it would populate the locations in color where all the trees are from 16, and all the trees are from 17. You know, so you can see it kind of on a big screen to kind of show you. Not only can you see it by reading it by address, you can see it visually.
But,
Yeah.
that
So I have to
that
work
would be
with them to
powerful.
see if they, presently there's not any other spare
They're
boxes.
just green and yellow, right?
Yeah, so basically all I can do is click on 1 year. So I click on, because the way that you enter, again, the way that you do this is that every tree that gets planted has to create a work order. That work order is a project, and the project is planting 2018. So there is actually a little icon, and then you press it, and it populates where we've planted all the trees so far that I've entered.
I was just thinking of something. I wonder if what you're really looking for is more of a database rather than a spreadsheet? Because like a spreadsheet, you can sort it, but you can't say like, I want all the, well, I guess you could,
Yeah.
like the lindens from 2018.
Yeah.
I guess you could just sort this column, then that column. I guess.
It's easier just to keep
Yeah.
it very simple, because the
All right.
database is tree keeper. The spreadsheet is just to
Yeah.
actually have a version that everyone here can see, that they can view it quickly.
Yeah.
For planning process, for planning purposes, and of course, if you have any questions. helps
So
me in the end.
these trees here are they setbacks or tree belts? Are these all tree belts?
These are,
That's a problem.
They don't know yet. We have to get-
What?
They don't know yet.
Oh.
I figure you're gonna go back and
Oh,
add
add them in later.
most of, yeah,
You
so.
could leave a blank too, you know.
that. Yeah, when you set up this, you just leave a blank
Just
column.
leave a set column.
Yeah, no.
And
Almost.
anyone could go in
The-
Add it back in.
and, yeah.
The
They,
constrict,
Rob could do that.
the constrict project was the setback.
Other than that, these are street trees, except for the Gazette.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that says Con Street
oh, okay.
is, everything else are.
For this year.
That's correct. for
That's
this
right.
year.
And that's why
Oh,
it's
okay.
noted, like in previous
Right.
years, it's noted SB.
Right.
But kind of, that's the kind of went, well, actually, there is another setback on here.
All right,
That's,
We could get
I've unanticipated enough.
that's just a number.
Oh, you can see.
Let's go.
That's all, it's 5:35.
Let's go.
All right.
Any other comments, other than thank you very much,
Yeah.
Rich and Rob and Tree Northampton, for all that amazing planting work?
Thank you.
One more
Work
comment,
hard.
last comment, Rob?
The next meeting is, just, can we mention when that?
Oh, yeah.
meeting is?
It's August 7th.
August.
And-
August, July.
August 10th.
The next meeting would
No
normally
meeting
be,
July 25th.
would be, no meeting in
I
July.
mean, July.
The next meeting would be August 1st. I'm not gonna be here, Rob's not gonna be, you'll be here. You know.
She said, there was an email that went out with this meeting and then the next one. I
Right, we
just don't
already
have it
agreed
off
on
the
a
top of my
date.
head,
Right.
yeah.
All right.
When it would be-
I'll give
August thing, reviewing when the date is.
I don't think I'm on these
Never mind.
emails
Yeah.
too. Rob kind of lets me know that.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no meeting August 1st?
When is the next meeting?
Hold on a second.
Actually,
I didn't
I
bring my
thought I put him
calendar.
in my phone, and apparently
And I didn't bring my calendar. so-
I thought that both August meetings were on, but
I
I
did
might be
too.
mistaken.
but
I
I think that's right.
thought it was just
Just-
July 4th that was
How
canceled.
about we send that around in a not 85-degree room?
All right.
Mayor motion?
No, we have to do the to-do list.
Oh.
Your favorite thing
Hey, we're in
to.
the shade.
I have to do a lot. I'm gonna talk to Lily, I'm gonna set a committee meeting. Gonna do the ordinance comments to Rich. We're gonna meet with Alan briefly to get a regulation moving along. Molly, you're gonna do a
I got my
spreadsheet.
hands full right now.
Jen, you're gonna meet with me and Rob.
Yes, and I'm drafting a one-pager to add to the guidelines for, 1-inch trees are available, blah, blah, whatever.
Okay.
A little info sheet about production systems.
Northampton is going to continue to revolutionize volunteer tree planting in Western Massachusetts.
I'm gonna add 2015 and 16 and 17 years after Molly gets 18 done.
With a consistent format.
Yep.
Rob's gonna,
Send that to Maryland.
yeah, all right, keep stretching before tree planting activities to stay healthy.
Rich has a public
You about it.
safety hearing. Is that the 24th, Rich?
That is the 24th, yeah. All right, and you'll also send around our next meeting date when you find it. Now, do I hear a motion?
I'm,
Adjourn.
oh, I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Enjoy the lovely day.